don't see Christians moving into other countries around the world and committing violence that forces locals to cancel their traditions. Do you guys?
Right. He did get stabbed.
Vlad, shut the fuck up with that shit.
There is no one more delusional than white people on this earth, and that's because they are the writers of their story and the writers of history, in which they've made themselves this altruistic people who live this benevolent life and have this amazing relationship with the world, civilization, and society, as if they are not the reason why 2/3 of the world lives in poverty. To say that Christians have never done the very thing that Christianity did around the world with colonization is literally a form of fucking insanity and cognitive dissonance. They are so far removed from reality. You think traveling thousands of miles across the ocean smelling like shit, so you stunk so much that the natives had to burn incense behind you. You told them they were dirty and savage because they washed every day, and that they did what they did in their golden pyramid cities. You burnt all their books, you killed them, you raped them, and you settled in the country. You went to Africa and you mass converted everyone in Africa. You demonized every fucking religion in Africa. You told us that our religions that we have practiced for thousands of years, paying homage to our ancestors, was a form of witchcraft. And now so much so that everybody in the colonized world is Christian and believes that African spirituality is evil. You literally came to North America from Canada down to Mexico, killed the majority of the native populations, told them they were savage, put them in concentration reservations, and took the land. You went all the way to Australia. You did the same thing to the Aborigines. You went to Asia. You did the same thing to the Asians. You have colonized the world so much in the name of Christianity that you've raped, robbed, lied, and stealed and enslaved people. You can't be this stupid. You can't be this fucking dumb. It's insane to see when the victor writes the story, how their offspring think about the story that was written. Because they don't actually look internally to see, how am I from Canada? How am I from Oklahoma? How am I from Brazil? How am I from Australia? No. You just say, I'm just from here, and everything that happened was all fine and dandy. Probably 60 million natives died from Canada down to Argentina. 60 million. You know how many Africans died in the Middle Passage? You know how many Asians died? You know how many Indians died under the rule of Great Britain? All in the name of Christianity. You fucking moron. So frustrated with these people to come online and make these claims without knowing an ounce or a single iota of history or any self-awareness. No one wants to hear a white person talk about or demonize another person's religion, because all your ancestors did was evil in the name of white Christianity.
Oh no.
Born again, who has gave their lives to Jesus? Raise your hand. Wow, look at that.
It's like we're watching
Dig a hole here,
a
and fetch
group
water
of
from
people
that
be
mountain.
colonized all over again. Like,
This tribe gave their lives to Jesus, and we're going through the
and they're
scriptures,
raising
and we
their
got to
hands.
the part about water baptism. They wanted to be water baptized, and nothing was going to stop us.
why?
So we took turns digging a hole.
This is
and
not
fetched
something to be
water
proud
all
of.
night long. They had to carry water more than 2 miles.
And this
away.
white woman has
By God,
dreadlocks.
we were ready for water baptism, and these
Not
people
even
were
locks. She
so
got
excited
dreads.
to
Like,
feel
what?
the presence of the Lord. And then they thought they were going to
They're using
actually
good
die
water
when
for
they went under
nothing.
that water. It still didn't stop them from getting in
Baptizing
because they
them
wanted to follow Jesus
to
so
Jesus?
much.
I wonder what type of Jesus she's giving them. Because you know it ain't the black one.
You know, one of the biggest psychological tricks colonization ever played? This whole white savior image. Because here's the truth. The savior role wasn't created to help indigenous or African people. It was created to help white people escape their own guilt. Hear me out. If you position yourself as the savior, you don't have to face the fact that you're the one causing the harm. This is why colonization needed a white Jesus. Not to just convert people, but to convince Europeans themselves that they were chosen, righteous, ordained by God to save the world. This is how you justify genocide. This is how you justify land theft. This is how you justify slavery, extraction, and domination. You rebrand yourself as the hero. And the wild thing, that psychology still exists today. The same systems, the same families, the same corporations that created most of the world's suffering now show up with the money and power acting like they have the real solutions. When in reality, the world is burning because of the systems that they have built. It's the modern white savior complex philanthropy, NGOs, charity, development, aid, and even environmental agendas, still centering the same people who caused the damage. And it just keeps the same colonial story alive. We know better, we can fix it, we can fix your land, we can fix your people. Instead of acknowledging that indigenous, African, and ancestral cultures had the solutions all along, and the world collapsed when those systems were destroyed and not honored. So when we talk about decolonizing, healing, and liberation, we're not just talking about the past. We're talking about the stories that still run the world today. And until we dismantle this savior image, there can't be real accountability, real justice, or real change.
A form of performative activism is white people traveling to Africa to take the role of the white savior. It is very common for white people to visit African countries as volunteers to help African children. At first glance, this is a kind gesture, but the problem is that white people who travel to African countries to volunteer usually arrive with a lack of training but believing everything will turn out fine because they are white, and also bring the belief that Africa is a poor continent because of the fault of African people, not because of colonization committed by European countries. Typically, there is no real intention to undo the damages of colonization. It's a feel-good trip for white people. On top of that, white people will never question their attitudes to racism. He can't possibly be racist, he volunteered in Africa, or she can't possibly be racist, she sponsors an African orphan. A lot of white volunteers are coming to Africa with racist views and no historical knowledge of the country they'll be working in. They already believe that Africa is this poor continent that needs whiteness to save them. There are so many ways to support poor African children without white people making themselves the protagonist. If you want to know more, No White Saviors is an advocacy campaign that helps non-Africans understand how to help African people without the need to feel like a hero. This is such a common practice that the UK has its own charity and program, Comic Relief. The charity was created to respond to the famine crisis in Ethiopia in 1983 to 1985. However, they send white British celebrities to take pictures and videos of themselves volunteering in Africa. White people love this image of the white hero or heroine saving black and brown people. There's a whole genre of white savior films. It allows white people to have this fantasy that their whiteness is helping people around the world. Comic Relief knows that white people are their target audience, so it would not be as entertaining for white people to watch black people help each other out.
The only way the average white person can feel like they have any power in this world is by oppressing people who have less than them. These white people are not part of the 1%. They're not part of the ruling class or the elite rich. And they know this. They know they have no real power. But they're also aware that the elite set up a system that benefits them as well. So they take part in this system, despite having the same means as people of color, doing the same jobs and the same careers, making the same amount of money. The only way they can feel superior is by taking part in the oppression of people of color. Either that, or they're too stupid to realize that they're under the control of the 1% and they're just like us. So that's why when people of color talk about white privilege, the average white person gets so upset. I don't have any privilege. I don't come from a wealthy family. I had to work for everything that I have. They don't realize the system that was implemented by our masters is the very one giving them access to everything that they have in life. They feel oppressed by the ruling class, so they oppress others to feel powerful. And this is not to excuse the racism of white people. This is just to give you an understanding of why they are the way they are.
White folks look upon us like monkeys. It is true. It's in your literature. Hey, you know, some of your best thinkers have said this about us. Have you heard of all these Germans? Have you heard? Okay. Yes. They said Lord Burton, yes. People like that. They said we don't even have the brain of animals. That's what we've got from you people.
But don't you think that this is over now?
Over where? Is it over? Who said that 8 came from the green monkey? Is it over? Is it over?
Well, if this is your impression, do you think that you can ever forgive us?
It's not a question of forgiveness. I have nothing against you. My point is that you did and you are doing for your survival what is necessary. We can't blame you for that. The fact that we didn't do enough for our own survival and we are still not doing enough for our survival. That is not your problem. You know, even everybody that God has created has a sense of survival. You know, and if we don't develop it, we can't blame white people. You came here because you needed these things. You took gunpowder from the Chinese. You needed them to shoot people.
You probably wonder, why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? You would think if you didn't like something, why would you be paying attention to it? I don't pay attention to things I don't like.
What's the answer?
The answer is the liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer's over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still gonna be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chopped those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nigga nose, it can only be niggas. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part? Nobody wanted to knock an eye off or take an ear off or no chins missing. No, just the nose. Because it's a brand. It's a brand. Right.
White people suffering from white savior complex, and yes, I'm gonna say suffering because it's almost as if it's an illness. They believe it's their responsibility to save and help people in underprivileged communities. Those communities are predominantly people of color. And these white people are doing it because they feel as if they are the savior. They are the ones that can help these poor little people of color because they just can't do it themselves. In most cases, it's the oppressive systems that limits these communities from being able to prosper and grow as a whole. Although the white savior complex can come with good intentions, it is still crucial and absolutely necessary to look at the deeper meaning behind why white people feel the need to save people of color. People's desire and need to do this actually shifts away from the real problems that these communities are being affected by. It literally puts marginalized groups on the back burner while putting the white people that help them in the front, which in turn mutes the voices of minority groups and their personal experiences.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the Empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
I think white people think that other people want to be them. I think they think other people want to be white. They actually think that people are looking at them, ordering Charlie Kirk's at Starbucks in a show of solidarity, and thinking, God, I wish that was fucking me. They think people want to be like them. Bro, nobody wants to be like white people.
What?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In every lifetime, if I ever got reincarnated, I would choose to be black. This video is so funny because it is true. Like, white people think that they are the norm, the status quo, and that they are the blueprint for things, and everything outside of the scope of being white is not normal. And I can speak boldly for the majority of black people on earth, and I will say 99.999% of black people. In every lifetime, if I ever got reincarnated, I would choose to be black. With everything that we experience in the world, with everything, all the history we have, all the racism, microaggressions, macroaggressions existing in this world.
My video yesterday about the white savior complex triggered a lot of white people, and I understand the truth hurts. I'm sharing to raise our awareness about the invisible and not so invisible structures and beliefs that so many operate on and that oppress us. Now, let me take this white savior complex even deeper. Because the savior complex didn't end with charity or colonization, it is perpetuated by religion, specifically Christianity. When colonizers needed a tool to control the masses, they didn't just use force, they used faith. They took God, who was once seen as the great mother, the earth, the source inside of all of us, and remade that God into a distant man in the sky. Vengeful, angry, punishing, controlling, a mirror of their own lower nature. And then we were given this story of original sin, that we are broken, we're sinful, and we're powerless. But don't worry, a savior will rescue you. Do you see how that ties directly into the white savior complex today? If you convince people that salvation comes from outside of them, you make them passive. You make them obedient. You make them wait instead of act. And look at the history. The Bible was edited and weaponized by men. The earliest transcripts of the Bible came out of Ethiopia. Many stories, including the Christ archetype, came from ancient Egypt, long before Rome. Then the Council of Nicaea came along, a room full of men deciding what goes in, what gets erased, and what version of God best fits service to the empire. That wasn't divine guidance. That was political and social engineering. And what did they gain from it? A population trained to pray instead of resist, to hope instead of fight, to turn the other cheek while their land, culture, and bodies were being taken. This is why so many people today are still waiting on Jesus to come and fix the world, instead of realizing that we are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the ones meant to heal the earth. We are the ones responsible for ending oppression. Waiting on a savior is one of the most effective forms of control ever invented. Because as long as you're waiting for someone else to save you, you're not saving yourself. You're not protecting your community. You're not challenging the systems of harm and oppression. Once you reclaim that truth and your innate power, the whole savior complex falls apart. I'm empowered to use my voice and to speak truth, to raise awareness, so we can throw off these shackles of mental slavery and oppression that is holding us back.
Part 2 on white saviors. If you feel like you need some sort of recognition or some trophy for speaking out against injustice, that is a white savior complex, and you're racist. White saviorism is racism, if you did not know. Telling people of marginalized communities, oh, you should be grateful that I'm at least doing this, is extremely performative. It shows that you are simply exploiting the struggle of people of marginalized communities for your own gain, your own selfish gain. If you want to be a white ally, it is your job to educate other white people and to uplift black voices, not talk over them.
A lot of white women from America and Europe, they go to Africa and they volunteer for this thing where they take pictures with all these black kids and as if like they're saving them. But if you look at how these things are done, these are actually travel agencies in Africa who lure white women like that. And they basically pay this travel company like $3,000 to go build a school or go help them build a well. But the whole thing is a gimmick. They go there and they get the wood and they try to make it seem like they're helping building the school. But what they do is after they leave, they tear it all down. What the work they done is useless. But they're doing it all to make that white woman feel good. So what she's doing is actually not helping those African kids at all, because those African kids don't see a dime from that money. It's all the travel agency that gets that money.
White folks, are you interested in becoming an ally for social justice and fighting inequality? It is a great aspiration, but you need to be careful to not fall into the trap of being a white savior. White savior syndrome refers to the tendency of white people to feel the need to rescue people of color and black people without consulting them or taking their input into account. This can be seen in a variety of contexts, including international aid efforts, charity work, and even everyday interactions between people of different races. So how can we avoid falling into this trap? The first step is to recognize our own biases and assumptions. We need to acknowledge that we have been socialized in a society that values whiteness and that we may have internalized these beliefs and attitudes that perpetuate this racist system. By recognizing our own biases, we can begin to challenge them and work to dismantle the power dynamic that underlies white savior syndrome. The next step is to listen and learn from Black people. In order to be effective allies and partners, we need to listen to the voices of people who are most affected by the issues we want to address. We need to ask them what they need, what they want, and what they think will work best. We need to be willing to take direction from them and to defer to their expertise and experience. Don't dismiss their experience, listen and learn. Finally, we need to center the voices and experiences of Black people and people of color. Instead of making ourselves the heroes of the story, we need to lift up their voices and experiences, and we need to understand by coming alongside them, we can be an asset instead of someone who is standing in the way. Listen to their stories. Listen to their perspectives. They are the leaders of their communities. We need to recognize that this work is ongoing and that we will make mistakes along the way. We need to be willing to listen to feedback and to acknowledge when we have messed up and commit to doing better next time. In avoiding white savior syndrome, it is important to understand that this is an essential part of being an effective ally and partner in the fight for social justice. By recognizing our biases, listening and learning from Black people, centering their voices and experiences, and being willing to learn from our mistakes, we can work towards a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Black people are lucky to be Americans. If it weren't for white people having slaves back in the day, there would be no black people in America.
And white people should be lucky that the Spaniards gave you boats so you can escape the treacherous brutality of King James. You know, he was burning white people at the stake for being pagans. You should also thank, most importantly, the indigenous people of North America for teaching you how to live off the land, because you could have died your first winter. In my humblest opinion, the indigenous people should have just put arrows in every last one of you. But that's just me. However, it will not take away from white people being thankful that the indigenous people taught you how to live off the land to survive your first winter. With that being said, this concludes the lecture, and everyone enjoy your wonderful Friday.
And you know what, my little color redacted cave monkey? I 1000% agree with you. You're most definitely superior at fucking up everything you touch. At robbing and stealing and killing from other cultures. And when it comes to touching on the kids, y'all can't be beat. Y'all can't be beat. Y'all will never beat those allegations. Baby, the way y'all was spreading plagues back in the day, don't even get me started on y'all superiority at spreading plagues. Everywhere y'all went, y'all had folks dropping like flies, spreading disease like wildfire. When it comes to welfare, baby, a hungry homeless bitch don't stand a chance against y'all. Y'all got that shit sold up, locked down. If only you color redactors could master a good sunny day.
Yes, I honestly believe that people that have a white savior complex feel that Black people, other people of color, and other marginalized groups cannot survive without them because they are so amazing, they are so wonderful, and they are so smart, and they are so whatever that other people just can't survive without them. And how dare we think that we can? How dare that we think that we can assist our own communities and build our own communities without their assistance? And I'm gonna be honest, and y'all can fight me in the comments, it wouldn't be the first time. I feel the very same way about white creators who build platforms based on anti-racism work that put themselves in the forefront. Something about that gives gross to me. Something about you benefiting from the very same racism and privilege that put us in this situation feels disgusting and disingenuous to me. I don't care.
We need to stop calling white supremacists. They need to be called what they are. They are suffering from a supremacy delusional disorder. They need to be aware they have a mental illness and that they need treatment for it. Supremacy delusional disorder is rather serious. They actually believe they're better than others based on just their skin tone. But I believe that with the proper amount of medication and therapy, so much therapy, they can somehow come out of this delusional state and be a part of the rest of society. And for those who cannot find proper help, they should probably remain locked up for the safety of society. And we'll find a cure for them eventually. Such a sad, sad mental disorder.
If that was true, sunscreen wouldn't exist.